Good morning. We are happy to have with us here today Mrs. Kadamri Mattu, Academics Director of the Sriram Education Trust. I am the principal of Sriram Global Preschool, New Colony, Gurgaon, and today we have Mrs. Mattu here to tell us a little bit about the Sriram Education Trust, about the schools we have, the preschools and the global schools that are delivering education to children across India. Welcome, Mrs. Mattu.
Thank you, Meena. Thanks very much for having me here. Let's talk about just what the Sriram schools are all about. We have Sriram schools pan-India of the centennial and global variety. To give you an example of why we have different brand names, the global schools belong to the Sriram family in this particular NCR. And around the country we have the centennial schools. Many people ask me, why have you called them centennial schools? And that is because we've been in education for almost a century. And that brings me now to the legacy. We have, imagine a situation where Indian nationalism is at its height. We have the fervor of the Indian nationalist movement going up and saying we need educational institutions which reflect the indigenous population, not something which is inspired by a curriculum from overseas. And that really started off our journey. Long before we had Lala Sriram founding SRCC, or the Sriram College of Commerce, we had other institutions as well. But SRCC, I would say, is one of the most famous. It started off in Daryaganj way back in 1926. And then, of course, we have Lady Sriram College, of whom I am also an alumna and very proud to be one. And that started in 1956. The family obviously didn't rest on its laurels and went on to open schools. The Sriram School, which was founded, I think, in the 90s. And now, finally, we have the Sriram Global and Centennial schools. I hope that gives you some idea of what we've been up to.
Mrs. Mattu, my question is, what do you personally feel this curriculum does for a preschool child?
Right. First of all, I think to answer that, we must understand what a preschool child means. If we agree that preschool is the first step out of a home for a young, tender, budding child, obviously the child needs a nurturing environment, and that's what I think the first need of a good preschool is. The curriculum will obviously develop both skills and attitudes, because even if you have a skill but you do not have a disposition to learn, no amount of skills is going to help you later on in life. And that is what we do. We encourage the development of skills, attitudes, an idea that a child needs to step out of his home and start on his journey towards formal education. That's what our preschool curriculum does.
And ma'am, the Sriram Global Preschool, the curriculum, the name,
yes.
What in your opinion does it stand for? What does it symbolize?
Number one, it symbolizes the drive towards excellence. That is a hallmark of every Sriram school, whether it's a preschool or a secondary school. We would like our school to be a model of the best, the most nurturing learning environment that can possibly exist in this country and outside. And ultimately, it should create a great human being who is peaceful, at rest with himself, has strong beliefs, and hence can be a really sensible and a good citizen of India of the future. I think that is where we are aiming. Ultimately, our preschool is just the beginning of our journey.
And what are some of the values that you are guided by?
Well, we're obviously very proud of our 7 C's. Our 7 C's have a combination of very traditional and also some 21st century values. When you look at confidence and commitment and curiosity, they are an essential element of every preschool that we have, every school that we have. But where we differ from other schools is how we've gone into looking further. We believe that for a preschool, we have to ensure that children have critical thinking, they have creativity, and are able to collaborate with their group. Without that, you can have no attitude towards learning that is fruitful in any way. In addition to that, we want our children to be grateful. We want them to be thankful for what God and their families have given them. That you cannot have unless you understand what compassion means. So for us, when these 7 C's have traditional values, 21st century values, and one without which no human being can be a moral human being, and that is compassion.
Can you tell us a little bit about how this particular curriculum was designed and structured, and what all went into creating this curriculum?
Right. First of all, we have a team of people working to create this curriculum with the notions of international and Indian best practice. We are not trying to replace one particular theory with another. What we've tried to do is extract the best from many theories of good education, whether it's Reggio Emilia or Playway or Montessori, and of course multiple intelligences. They feature very heavily in our curriculum. Now, the test of a curriculum for preschool is whether it's flexible or not. Because when you look at a 1.5-year-old and you look at a 3-year-old, and you've divided them into 2 classes, children are at various stages of development. If you have a rigid curriculum, those stages of development are actually a hindrance to teaching the curriculum. What we try to do is ensure that the flexibility in the curriculum is there, the areas of let us say, to push with a more gifted child are there, to support the slightly less proficient child. And I don't think it's even correct to call them less proficient. This is a developmental continuum, and each child is taking his own time to get there. So we do not believe in ensuring that in week 2, all our children will know the alphabet. That's not the way our curriculum works. What we do is we have wonderful umbrella themes which are very relevant to our curriculum. Under those umbrella themes, we have areas such as language development, number sense which promotes logical thinking, we have creative development through art and craft, we have sensorial learning. Messy play is a great part of it because children learn textures as well as vocabulary. And let us not forget physical development. Now all of these are distinctly developed under each umbrella theme. We're not pushing the number of themes the teacher must complete in a month. What we try to do is ensure that learning is complete. The teacher must be able to evaluate whether the children have actually understood the concept. Are the vocabulary goals met? And hence, she decides to move on. And so, I would say that we have what I said earlier on, which is a very flexible curriculum, and it works very well for us.
Okay, thank you. What can parents expect, ma'am, at the end of a year and a half, from their preschool child's, their preschool child is spending a year and a half here? What kind of learning and development can they expect?
It's not governed by CBSE, I must tell you that first of all. What I can assure you is that there will be tremendously enhanced language and communication skills. Let's say a basic understanding of numeracy. And of course they must understand the functioning of their world, their own families, their school, their neighborhood. These are some of the learning goals that we have for our children. And let us please remember that preschool is the beginning. A lot of schools force feed learning in preschool, and that has extremely negative effects. And in fact, the effect is that the children get turned away from learning, and that should not happen. For us, preschool is like a teaser. The children that there is so much more to learn, they're excited about their learning, and are unable to, in fact, keep themselves away from school. And this is what happens in many of our preschools. Children don't want to go home.
Okay.
And this, I think, is a clear indication of how much that environment is loving, is teaching them something viable, and in fact, I'm sure that that's being repeated in all our schools around the country, and something we're very, very proud of. So essentially what we're saying is they also need to be, I think, working up to what we expect at nursery. Now, for parents who expect their children to be proficient in writing in preschool, that is a very bad idea, a misnomer of what should be happening in the preschool. Let us not overload our 2-year-olds. They are not ready to write. Their fingers, their fine motor skills are not developed. What we do is pre-reading, pre-writing skills, so that when they get into nursery, they can go straight into phonics, learning how to read systematically, and also, of course, in stages, picking up first thicker pencils and then writing in their lined notebooks with a proper pencil. That happens all through nursery. And we do not expect children to come to us from other schools into nursery already knowing how to write. That we prefer to teach them ourselves. Right? So this is part of what a parent can expect in 1.5 years of preschool. And frankly, I don't like to think of end goals because, as I said, at 2.5 or almost 3, some children are highly developed.
Okay.
And if again you have those finite learning goals, it's probable that you're not even stretching the child. Equally, if you're forcing those goals down to a child who perhaps hasn't had the exposure and who is not genetically disposed towards doing that early, again, you're frightening the child and turning them away from learning. That's not what we like to do. We certainly ensure that they have lots more to learn and the yen to learn, which I think is equally important.
That's right, yes.
Okay.
So going forward from here,
Yes.
so considering children are here up till KG in our school, in the Sriram Global Preschool here in New Colony.
Yes.
The question on every parent's mind is, where do they go from here?
I'm very happy to say that I have full confidence in the children here. The fact that they will be, having the best kind of education imparted, whether it is in our school in phase 4, which is the parent school, or the school at Punjab Gurgaon, which also exists now. And I'd like to think that our New Colony school is a shining example of what we want as good education. I would be proud to have these children in our Greenwood Primary. And to give you more of an idea of the Greenwood Primary School, it is a wonderful school with all the infrastructure and facilities required, more than is required for children of primary, and including a swimming pool and tennis courts and all of that. Those are, by the way, for us, because they're additions to learning. And frankly, they're very much a part of our co-curricular program, which in many schools is an extracurricular program, but included in what we teach. And of course, after that, we have very, very great plans to open our secondary building. Not very far away. I think you'll have to wait till I can actually confirm. We're considering 3 or 4 different sites as of now. We already have one in Sector 64, but we're looking at other more congenial sites for us. And that will be where our secondary school will actually come up. And the good thing is, especially for parents who are coming into your school at this point, we are not already deciding which external board, international board, we're going to be affiliated to in addition to the CBSE. Who knows what will be available to us at that point. But certainly there will be one board which will be offered as an option. This doesn't mean that we don't have full confidence in the CBSE. The way CBSE is moving is very creditable. So there could be the CBSEI, which again is the international CBSE curriculum. And I would be very happy to move on to that, which in my opinion is equal to any other curriculum option offered overseas. So lots to look forward to.
So it's safe to say that a child who walks in at the age of, say, 1 1.5 years and joins our baby class, which is Caterpillar, will go all the way right up to 12th grade, choosing between CBSE and an international curriculum.
Absolutely.
That's
We would be very happy to offer that, and I can assure you that children from this wonderful institution at New Colony will always be welcome at our primary school and thereafter. I'm really hoping that and from what I can see of the environment, it's in the best examples of what we want in our schools.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
For my knowledge and understanding, ma'am, I'd like to know what's different. I know that where we are located, there are almost 15 preschools and play schools and pre-nursery schools. What is it that Sriram brings?
Do you know, when we started Sriram Preschool, Mrs. Sukanya Bharatram and said just one thing, and she says, Kadambari, it is important that we take our best practice in education to the very beginning, to the start of it all. And our hallmark is quality. Now, how do we ensure quality? There are, as you just said, preschools mushrooming all around the city, in this very neighborhood. What makes us different? What makes us different is not just the quality of the curriculum, which in effect is a document. A curriculum is a document unless it is actually implemented. Now, what we would like to think is that our implementation is faithful and in the best interest of the child. So, our decisions are made in the interest of the individual child. We are able to adjust our teaching methods to the individual child and ensure that his learning goals are appropriate to his level of development. Having said that, how does Sriram ensure that this happens? A, through a tremendously effective training period where the best trainers from the Sriram group come in and train each school. In addition to that, we are a very hands-on body, and we're here in each school very often to see what is actually being transacted in the classroom itself, where the learning is happening and wherever learning is happening. And I would say then that that's what makes us different. Not just a document, but the way that document is implemented, how the transaction in the actual classroom is being monitored, and our insistence that learning has to be embedded with values. I think that would really make us different.
I'd like to thank you, ma'am, for being here with us